Welcome to The Value of One, The Power of All, a podcast created by the Ron Brown Scholar Program. Since 1996, this organization has been investing in the next generation of African American leaders, and this podcast highlights the stories of the people that make this program special. I'm your host, Ray Pryor, 2015 Ron Brown Scholar, and in this fourth season, we're highlighting doctors in our alumni network who have taken their training as physicians beyond just serving patients. From the moments in their personal lives that originally inspired their interest in medicine, to the professional experiences and macro trends that expanded their scope of impact as physicians, we'll peek into the minds of the leaders who are working to improve healthcare from every angle. In this episode, I'm excited to share my conversation with Dr. Diarra Lamar. Diarra is a member of the inaugural class of 1997 Ron Brown Scholars. He graduated magna cum laude from Harvard with a degree in Cognitive Neurosciences, then came back to Harvard for med school and business school. Across his career as a consultant at McKinsey, director at Blue Cross Blue Shield, partner at BCG, and now a partner at Strategy & Diarra's clients have included providers, payers, service providers, pharma and tech companies, as well as investors across the healthcare space. Take a listen.
So let's start at the beginning. If there is a moment or a person or a period of time in your life, when do you think you had the conviction that becoming a doctor was something you wanted to do?
Conviction is a really strong word. I think I've probably had the intellectual and social interest actually in medicine. And I can remember a specific time. Different people play different roles over time. But I was reading an article probably in junior high in Newsweek about fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. And before some kind of way, I was very interested in genetics and the role that that would play. And so I thought I was going to be a hardcore scientist. And when I saw that article, I just thought it was fascinating to see how science was applied to taking care of patients. And at the time, that technology was new. And the idea that you could see someone thinking, you could see the brain working correctly and incorrectly was just a fascinating idea to me. And so I started thinking more about science in the context of taking care of patients. And I was aware enough at the time, Ray, that I had a bit of a bedside manner. So I knew that I did not want to be solely a scientist. And I think the combination of those things spoke to me. And so probably around 9th grade or 10th grade or something like that, my thought was, hey, I'm going to be pre-med. I'm going to go to med school and I'm going to do and take care of patients. I'm going to do medicine in addition to something else. I think at that time, I did not know what that something else was. But it was both the combination of an awareness of myself and the kind of impact that I wanted, as well as my awareness of what was going on out in what's a pretty significant portion of the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. And to think about what you were reading in that article, those, as a kid, and to think about all of the exciting things happening in that space now.
Totally.
You kind of seen the whole spectrum of things grow and progress over the course of your career. So you always knew you had this something else that you wanted to add with the natural knack for wanting to take care of people. When you were in med school, did you get clarity?
I did. And it was less med school than it was just a series of experiences. So I think the exposure that I had to Robert Frank, who was in the Clinton Foundation from a healthcare policy perspective, was important for me to see the impact of policy on healthcare. So I got very involved in the Mass Med Society and the student section of the AMA. And in that milieu, I got exposed to a lot of healthcare wonky type of people. And through those interactions, I came to understand that I really needed to understand how healthcare was financed and how it was paid for. One of the old gray hairs in some of those interactions said, hey, Diarra, you seem well-intended and have great ideas from a policy perspective, but based on the kind of impact that you want to have, you really need to understand the finances of it. And I had no exposure to business. I had not taken microeconomics, macroeconomics in high school. Like I was totally just like a science nerd through and through. And that clear feedback helped me understand that there were other aspects of healthcare. And so it was at that time, and this was probably shortly after college, because I was coming at it, that medicine and was medicine and policy. And then when I was in medical school, the combination of just a reflection on that feedback from that mentor, also the experience of med school, which was very it put my brain in a box, right? Like I was really just thinking about medicine all the time, and I missed all of the conversations that I had on other topics during college. And all of those factors came together to say, like, hey, how do you learn something about something that you need to learn about that you don't know about? Well, you go to school for it. And so part of my thinking in going to business school at the time was that, actually, you know what? I don't want that medicine and to be medicine and policy. I actually wanted to be medicine and business because I came to understand that at the time, healthcare was about 16%, 17% of the GDP. And I started to agree with these mentors that I needed to understand finance. And so when I went to business school, and part of the reason for doing that at that time was likely something in the business sector. And I also, Ray, had experience enough to know that public health was actually starting to talk to me, but I did not want my seat at the table in public health to be on the basis of being a frontline worker. And we could have a whole conversation around why that was. And so my thinking when I went to business school was was going to be something in business. And the rationale for that was that I really wanted to have know-how and chops around understanding an income statement, a balance sheet, and how that drives what happens on the wards and how that drives deals that are done that I was reading about in the newspaper. My Newsweek had progressed to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times at that time. So I was getting exposed as well through that to other types of things that were happening in the world. So it was the co-occurrence of all of these things that at the beginning of business school, was something in business.
Yeah, well said. I appreciate you framing that. And then, certain threads I'm sure people can apply to their careers of, kind of an insatiable curiosity, looking out for things, mentors looking at you, and always looking for some sort of new edge or new component. You can never fully understand something as complex as healthcare just from one dimension.
Yeah.
Like you need those other pieces. So tell me a bit about, after med school and business school, what types of problems have you been diving into as a consultant? And I'm sure that you probably get the hardest, juiciest, most difficult ones that people can't solve on their own. And might have fed your appetite a bit of wanting this combination.
Yeah.
What are some of those things that have been most important over the years?
Everything. And it's actually been, or many things, and it's been different things at different parts of my, and I hesitate to say career, but parts of my life outside of and after school. When I first started as a strategy consultant at McKinsey, I did all different types of projects, right? I did infrastructure investing in Africa. I did a lot of pharma work around putting two pharma companies together and what should their combined bag look like. I did a lot of public health work, did work for Global Alliance of Vaccines and Immunizations, for Rollback Malaria, for Stop TB. So I had like a whole kind of set of projects around public health and making those organizations more effective. I had a lot of work around like hardcore commercial pharma topics. How to build a brand, extend a brand, how to structure a team, et cetera, at the intersection of healthcare and organization behavior and how groups of people work. I went into industry for a little bit after McKinsey and the Obamacare exchanges launched in 2012, and I wanted to really be on the front line of that whole wave and change to the healthcare sector. And so, when I was in industry, I did a lot of work around different types of insurance products and how to engage members around on their health insurance, what other types of deals and alignment structures could be in place to better align with physician practices. And then when I came back into consulting at BCG from some time in industry, I started to do more of those topics, but in the services world. So not in pharma, but in payers, providers, and healthcare IT. Throughout this, I had always had a pretty strong and enduring interest in technology and innovation and what that means from a perspective of commercial growth. So I started doing a lot of different projects around how do you drive growth, both organically and inorganically, which has all sorts of different kind of topics to it. And the byline through all of this was a myriad of types of projects that enabled me to go very deep on particular topics at the time. And the thing that was driving the projects that I decided to do was probably 30% the people who were involved, 60% the content, and usually content that was something I had not yet been exposed to. And then the balancing 10% just of what was available at the time and happening in the broader market. And so over the last 8 years or so, I was doing a lot of strategy work. Over the last 8 years, though, or so, I had an opportunity to join a firm to bring a strategy lens to the deals context. And I was very deals exposed, but not a deals practitioner. I had taken a lot of deals classes in business school. I led a deal team at an insurance company. I was kind of that world in the sense that I was interested in the pace and uncertainty that deals provides. I was going to do emergency medicine had I practiced. And so there was a lot around kind of undifferentiated opportunity, frontierism, entrepreneurism, et cetera, that was and is inherent to deal space. And so when I came to PwC, part of the thing that I was solving for at the time, now a very tenured strategy consultant, was still the opportunity to learn. And so imagine as a partner still being able to learn something about what I was doing for my clients and with my clients. And that was really attractive to me because at that point, Ray, after a handful of years, you kind of, once you've seen it, right? Like a revenue problem is a revenue problem and a culture problem is a culture problem. There are unique elements to it, of course, because they're individual people and personalities and organizational dynamics. But you've seen it, or most of it. And so part of the reason why I then got into deals was that it, like broader strategy consulting, also had an inherent churn and an inherent breadth of types of projects and things that I could do. Because when you buy one business over here in member engagement technology, that's really different from buying a business over here, which is a physician practice, or buying a business over here, which is, a TPA or an insurance company and such. And so when you ask the question around what types of projects, I think when you look at all of that work, it has not been of one note. And it has more been around a 360 view of the healthcare sector. And that's what I've really loved the most about what I do, right? Which is that there are 360 degrees around this sector, and it's really hard to know them all. And if you want to understand healthcare in a richer way, I think it's critical and important that you're exposed to those other elements of the circle. And so it's quite an enviable position, I believe, for someone with the rapacious intellectual curiosity and desire to struggle, because I do desire to find something that is tough to understand and worthy of my time, to be able to have such a wide array of things that I can pick from. And now as a partner, I get to drive those things. I decide the clients that I support. I decide the projects that I pursue. That's really, fulfilling is not the right word. It's enjoyable because I don't look for fulfillment per se from my work, but I do look for engagement and excitement and interest and the opportunity to learn and expand my understanding for a sector that is, very arcane and very complex and highly regulated and yet still quite dynamic. So yeah, I'm having a time at it.
Well said. You just said something at the end that you don't necessarily derive your fulfillment from your work.
Don't. And I'm not looking for it, is actually what I said.
Yeah, you're not looking for it. And I'm thinking about a 18-year-old Ron Brown scholar who's listening to this, thinking that becoming a doctor is the most important thing they could do for themselves, for their families. And certainly it requires that level of commitment to achieve the success that you've had. But how have you done so separating that from, I'm a person, this is me, and this is my work?
Look, I see a lot of people I have seen a lot and do see a lot of people. And I also said something before around, like, I dare to call it a career because I'm not a careerist. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just not me. And when I say a careerist, what I mean is someone who has a singular focus on some particular destination, which I think is necessary to achieve great things in some instances, but it's not the only path. And since that's not the path that I choose, because I actually celebrate serendipity, I celebrate fortune that favors the brave, I celebrate being open to possibility and discovery. I don't think I am such a master of what could be that I can imagine what should be or what I want it to be for me. But I am aware enough to know that if someone else has done something, I can do it too. And if I come to find it and think that it's interesting, I'm going to pursue that. And so given that that's the case, and then a self-awareness that I'm not a careerist, I have been in the things and pursued the things that I have pursued because they were of interest to me, inherently interesting to me. And that openness, that willingness to grow, and that willingness to explore has been enduring about my personality and about the way that I show up in all aspects of my life. I have 2 daughters, and I tell them both, we don't say I can't. We say I haven't yet. They'll say, I can't reach that. Do you mean it's just beyond my reach? That's just a different mindset. And so I use those examples as indicators of really understanding me as an individual, because I think that's really important for what I'm now going to say around, okay, you claim you have to have a pretty singular focus to achieve these things. That's one path. There are others. And so part of the way that I have moved and navigated has been facilitated by the fact that I don't do anything halfway. I tell my daughters this too. I say, if you're going to do it all the absolute way. And so I gain a lot of confidence from knowing that, my 80% is most people's 110%. And so if I'm showing up, it could be the most boring thing ever. I'm going to nerd out on it and think it's interesting. And I think that is the thing that is critical. The thing that is critical is that you put in every single ounce of single thing that you can on every single thing that you do, because it's not a dress rehearsal. And I think that it being life and the things that you do. And so I think it is, it's a mindset. It's a mindset, and there'd be a whole separate discussion around why do I think I am the way that I am? I think briefly, I grew up in single parent homes. I had a grandmother who had a 6th grade education, who was told that she was not going to have kids. I had a mother who, was a single parent when I was 9, who was and is fierce and amazing, an aunt who has just a magnificent personality. And so I have all of those folks whose shoulders I'm standing on. So it's if you come from that, you have to put up or shut up. So you have to go and do your thing. And so given all of that, and also given a level of self-awareness and confidence around that the world has a lot of different opportunities in it, and that they're just filled with all sorts of choices and trade-offs, I have with conviction, and now I will use that word, conviction, I have with conviction navigated this, not uncertainty, but this thing that could be disorienting, actually, all of this choice, with a level of freeness and a level of clarity of mind that in the moment I can decide and choose something that's going to work for me. And so my advice to people at the scholars and folks who are at the earlier innings of things, one implication of my worldview and the way that I have navigated things and what I advocate to people is just to be open and curious. And the way that you live that out, the way that one lives that out can take a lot of different forms. But open means to be incessant in your own self-questioning of why you want to do what you want to do. Because I think when someone actually is questioning themselves and the answer is insufficient and you ask the additional why, you come to deeper truths about your motivations, about your values, and about the things on which you are unwilling to budge and unwilling to sacrifice. And I think that level of self-awareness is power. And then I think around the incessant curiosity, it's necessary. What if, or how could, or what would it take to? What would have happened if? That subjunctive world, it opened so much power, because it means that you don't have to necessarily be constrained by somebody else's dreams from before and some path that has already been trodden. You can blaze your own in a way that is self-affirming. So, we could have a much longer conversation about that. I know it's a bit philosophical, but I do think close to half a century around the earth, and I'm just getting started, those are some truths that I think can be useful.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Value of One, The Power of All, a podcast created by the Ron Brown Scholar Program. If you want to hear more inspiring conversations like this one, don't forget to click subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. To learn more about the organization, check us out at ronbrown.org.